Sometimes a single moment changes everything. Not because of a fight, not because of a betrayal, but because someone finally sees the truth you tried so hard to hide. The day he walked in, the day he saw everything, was the day his silence spoke louder than any words he could have said. This is the story of how one moment shattered me, and how I learned that silence can be the most painful answer of all. I never thought silence could hurt more than shouting. But that day, the day he walked in and saw everything, his silence felt like knives. It started like any ordinary afternoon. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you hear your own heartbeat. I had been cleaning, rearranging things, trying to distract myself from the storm that had been brewing inside me for weeks. I kept telling myself, when he comes home, I'll talk to him. I'll explain. I'll finally tell him everything. But deep down, I feared the truth. Some conversations come too late. I remember the smell of lemon cleaner, the soft hum of the ceiling fan, and the weak winter sunlight falling across the living room floor. I remember thinking how peaceful everything looked on the outside, even though inside me, everything was falling apart. Then I heard the front door open. His footsteps, slow, heavy, almost hesitant, moved down the hallway. I wiped my hands on my shirt and turned, ready to greet him. "Hey, you're home early." But then he stopped, right there in the doorway, frozen, eyes locked on the table. And I will never forget the look on his face. On the wooden table, still slightly crooked because one leg was shorter, lay the things I had kept hidden for months. The things he was never supposed to see until I was ready. The things I had planned to talk about gently, carefully, in a calm moment. But life rarely waits for the perfect moment. He wasn't supposed to walk in that early. He wasn't supposed to see everything laid out like that. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow. And I wasn't supposed to see him break without saying a word. The table held a stack of documents, old photographs, a small velvet box, and the letter. The letter, folded neatly in the center. His eyes went straight to it, then to me, then back to the table. For a few seconds, the world stopped. My throat tightened. I can explain. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He didn't move. Just watched. And the longer he stared, the more the silence pressed on my chest like a weight I couldn't breathe under. He took one step forward, then another. His jaw clenched the way it always did when he was hurt, but trying not to show it. His fingers trembled slightly, and then he picked up the letter. The sound of the paper crinkling felt louder than thunder. His eyes scanned the first line, then the second. I could see his breath catch. I took a step toward him. "Please just listen to me." Still no words. Not even a whisper. He finished the letter, placed it back on the table carefully, too carefully, and stepped back as if the paper itself were something that could burn him. I had seen him angry. I had seen him frustrated. I had even seen him break down once. But I had never seen him like this. Silent. Still. Gone, yet standing right in front of me. "What are you thinking?" I whispered. But he just shook his head slightly, like he didn't trust himself to speak. Like words would betray him. Silence. So heavy it made the room feel smaller. I tried again, my voice cracking. "Please talk to me." But he didn't. He couldn't. Instead, he walked past me, slowly, almost sadly, and sat on the edge of the sofa, elbows on his knees, hands covering his face. That was when I knew the truth. What he saw broke something inside him. Something I wasn't sure I could ever fix. The clock on the wall kept ticking. The world kept moving. But the two of us sat in that small living room, drowning in a silence that meant more than any argument ever could. I wanted to reach for him, but I was afraid he'd pull away. Afraid the distance between us had already become too wide. So I just stood there, shaking, watching the man I loved crumble in a quietness that felt like the beginning of an ending. I opened my mouth to speak again, but he finally moved. Not to talk, not to yell, not to ask questions. He stood up, walked to the bedroom, and closed the door gently behind him. No words, just silence, the kind that breaks you. And that was the moment I realized, whatever happened next, our lives would never be the same. The door closed so softly that it hurt more than if he had slammed it. A soft click, and suddenly, there was a wall between us. Not made of wood, not made of distance, made of silence. I stood in the middle of the living room, staring at the door like it had swallowed him whole. My hands were still trembling. My heartbeat felt too loud, too fast, too heavy inside my chest. I wanted to run after him. I wanted to break the door open and force the words out. I wanted to undo the past few minutes. But my legs wouldn't move. So I waited. Minutes passed. Then more. The house was painfully quiet, except for the faint, uneven sound of breathing from the other side of the door. It wasn't loud, but I knew him well enough to recognize it. He was crying. He never cried. Not in front of people. Not even in front of me. Once, years ago, when life threw him too many burdens at once, I found him wiping his eyes in the kitchen. But he had laughed it off and said, "Something went in my eye." Tonight, though, there was no pretending. I took a shaky breath and walked toward the bedroom, stopping just outside the door. I placed my hand on the wood. It was cold. "Please," I whispered. "Just talk to me." No answer. Only silence, and the sound of him trying to breathe steady. I pressed my forehead against the door. "I never wanted you to find out like this." Still nothing. I closed my eyes, and memories flooded in. Memories of what led to this moment. Memories of the secret I had carried like a weight in my lungs. The letter on the table. The photographs. The velvet box. Memories I had locked away because I was afraid of hurting him, afraid of changing our lives, afraid of making him look at me differently. But he had seen them all at once, without any explanation. I sank down onto the floor, leaning against the door, knees pulled close to my chest. "We were supposed to talk tonight," I whispered through tears. "I was going to tell you gently. I was going to explain everything." For a moment, I thought I heard him shift. But again silence. And in that silence, the truth tasted bitter. Maybe I waited too long. Maybe the right moment doesn't exist once the damage is already done. The hours crawled. The sun went down. The house darkened. And still, the bedroom door stayed closed. I stayed on the floor for so long my legs grew numb. At some point, I fell asleep sitting up, exhausted from crying. When I woke up, it was past midnight. The hallway was cold. My neck ached. And the door behind me was still closed. But now it was quiet. Too quiet. I panicked and knocked softly. "Are you okay?" No answer. I knocked again louder. "Please. Say something. Anything." Still nothing. My chest tightened. I imagined the worst. Him leaving, him breaking down, him shutting me out forever. Then finally, the doorknob turned. I jumped to my feet. The door opened only an inch, just enough for him to speak. His voice was raw, cracked, barely recognizable. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question hit me harder than any shout could have. My eyes filled instantly. I was scared. His breath shook. Of me. "No," I said quickly. "Never of you." I was scared of what the truth would do to us. He opened the door a little more. I could see part of his face now. His eyes red, his cheeks wet, his expression empty. He shook his head. "So you hid it." I swallowed hard. I didn't hide it because I wanted to lie. I hid it because I didn't know how to say it without breaking your heart. And now, his voice cracked on the last word. "Do you think my heart is okay now?" That shattered me. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." He leaned against the doorframe, exhausted. Not physically but emotionally. the kind of exhaustion that drains the soul more than the body. Then he said something I wasn't prepared for. "Show me everything." My breath caught. "Now," he nodded. "If I'm going to hurt, I want to hurt with the truth. Not with guesses. Not with silence." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to protect him from the rest of it. The details, the explanations, the reasons behind every photograph and every line in that letter. But he deserved the truth. He had always deserved it. I stepped back and motioned toward the living room. "Cool me. I'll explain everything." He walked past me slowly, like every step weighed more than the last. He sat on the sofa, exhaling shakily, eyes fixed on the table. The letter, the documents, the photos, the velvet box. I sat beside him, but not too close. I didn't want to overwhelm him. I took the first photo in my hands, my voice trembling. This is where everything started." He didn't look at me. He didn't speak. But he listened. And somehow, that silence hurt even more. The story behind the photos. I held the photograph toward him. A picture of me years ago, standing beside someone he didn't know. He stared at it, jaw tightening. "That's," he whispered. I nodded slowly. "Yes." His breath caught. I felt the sting of tears again. "I should have told you everything the moment you came into my life. You didn't deserve secrets. You didn't deserve this shock." He closed his eyes. "Please," I whispered. "Let me tell it all before you decide anything. Before you walk away. Before you decide if we can still be us." He opened his eyes again. Hurt, confused, breaking. "Then talk," he whispered. "Because right now, I don't know what to feel." And that was the moment I knew. Tonight I had to tell him everything. Even if it broke both of us. Even if it changed everything forever. He sat there, quiet and still, his eyes fixed on the photograph in my shaking hands. He looked like a man trying to brace himself for an impact he knew would hurt no matter what direction it came from. I swallowed hard. My throat felt tight. But I forced myself to speak. "This picture," I said softly, "was taken years before I met you." He didn't look at me. Not yet. But I saw his jaw twitch, the kind of tiny movement that revealed every emotion he was trying to hide. I continued, my voice low. I wasn't alone back then. I wasn't as strong as I am now. I was in a place where everything felt complicated, and every decision I made felt like it came from fear instead of wisdom. He finally looked up. Just a glance. But it was enough to make my heart twist. "Who is he?" he asked quietly. The question I had been terrified of. I sat back a little, breathing shakily. His name was Daniel. His expression changed, barely but enough. "And what was he to you?" His voice wasn't angry. It was resigned. Like he was already imagining a truth that would break him. I looked down at the photo again. We were together, for a while. But it wasn't love. Not the kind I found with you. He swallowed, but didn't interrupt. It was toxic, I explained. He controlled everything. What I did, how I dressed, who I spoke to, even what dreams I was allowed to have. A shadow passed across his face. Not jealousy, pain. He wanted to marry me, I said. And I thought, maybe saying yes would stop the fighting. I looked up, eyes filling. But I couldn't. I left before things got worse. He nodded slowly, processing. Not speaking. Just absorbing every word. I took a deep breath and continued. That's when Daniel started showing up everywhere. Outside my job. Outside my apartment. He'd leave notes. Flowers. Threats. My friends told me to get help. But I didn't want to involve anyone. His eyebrows pulled together. Why not? Because, I whispered. I was terrified of starting over again. I was tired of being the woman with problems. I wanted to forget that chapter. He exhaled shakily. So what changed? My eyes drifted to the velvet box on the table, and the letter beside it. That, I said quietly, Daniel didn't go away. He kept trying to come back into my life, even long after we broke up. His eyes flicked to the box. And the ring. I nodded. The ring wasn't from him now. It was from back then. I hesitated. He proposed once, in a way that felt more like pressure than romance. I kept the ring because throwing it away felt like tempting him to come back. And I hid it because I never wanted it to be part of my future. His eyelids fluttered shut for a moment, as if he needed a second just to breathe. And the letter, he whispered. I looked down at my hands. The letter was from last year. He reached out again. One last time. I didn't reply. I didn't want to reopen anything. I kept the letter only as proof, in case things ever escalated. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling as if it held answers. And you never told me. I wanted to, I said, tears spilling silently. But then we started building our life together. You gave me peace. You gave me calm. You gave me a sense of home I'd never felt before. He swallowed hard. Then why didn't you trust me with this? I looked at him, really looked. You were the one person I didn't want to burden. I didn't want you to see me as damaged. I didn't want my past to poison what we had. He rubbed a hand over his face. I wouldn't have seen you that way. I know, I whispered. But I didn't know that back then. I was scared you'd see me differently. That you'd feel responsible for protecting me, or worse, that you'd think I wasn't healed enough to love you completely. His eyes softened, just barely. And now, I said, voice breaking. You saw everything without context. And that's the part one regret most. He stared at the documents again. Police reports I never finished filing, restraining order forms I never submitted, notes I had tried to tear but couldn't bring myself to throw away. You lived all of this, he whispered. Alone? I nodded slowly. And you let it eat you alive instead of letting me in? I didn't want to lose you, I said softly. He let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh, pained, sad, and aching. And now? Do you think hiding it didn't push me away? My heart dropped. I know it did. My voice cracked. I felt it when you closed that door. He sighed deeply, pushing his fingers through his hair, a gesture he always did when overwhelmed. I'm not angry about your past, he said finally. I'm angry that you thought I couldn't handle it. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head bowed. And I'm hurting, he admitted. Because you carried this alone even when you had me. I wiped my eyes. I'm hurting too. We sat there, two people who loved each other, separated by truths spoken too late. But then, he lifted his head. His eyes were red, tired, but no longer empty. Is there more? He asked. I hesitated. Yes. Then tell me, he said quietly. All of it. Don't leave anything behind this time. I nodded. And as I reached for the next photograph, a tremor ran through me. Because the next part of the story, the part he hadn't seen yet, was the part that would hurt the most. He watched me with a quiet intensity as I reached for the next photograph. My hand trembled so badly that the picture nearly slipped through my fingers. This wasn't just another memory. This wasn't just another part of my past. This was the part that had the power to break him all over again. I held the photo face down for a moment, trying to steady my breathing. He noticed. Whatever it is, he said quietly, I'm still here. His voice wasn't calm. He was hurting, fragile, confused. But he was trying to hold himself together, trying to stay. I turned the photograph around. His eyes narrowed, then widened, then froze completely. It was a picture of me at a hospital. A date written on the back. A swollen face. A doctor's signature. And a small, blurry sonogram next to it. His voice barely escaped his throat. You were pregnant? I nodded, tears already falling. He swallowed hard, staring at the sonogram like it was something sacred. Something that didn't belong in a story filled with hurt and fear. And the father was him? His voice cracked low and trembling. Yes, I whispered. He looked down, his hands shaking. Why didn't you ever tell me? I exhaled shakily, trying to find words that wouldn't crush him. I wasn't ready to talk about it. Not because I didn't trust you, but because that part of my life was the darkest thing I ever lived through. He kept his eyes on the sonogram, his thumb brushing over the small black and white print. What happened? He whispered. I breathed in, slow and painful. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought maybe Daniel would change. Maybe the responsibility would soften him. But instead, things got worse. His jaw tightened in silent anger. Not at me, but at the man in the memories. He didn't want the baby, I said, voice breaking. He said it would ruin his plans. That I was ruining his life. His hands curled into fists. That day, I pointed at the picture of me in the hospital. He pushed me during an argument. I fell. Hard. I lost the baby that night. He closed his eyes, his entire body stiffening. I'm so sorry, he whispered. Words so soft they barely made it into the air. No. I shook my head. You don't owe me an apology. You didn't even know me back then. He looked at me then, really looked, hurt, furious, compassion in his eyes all at once. You went through all of that alone, he said, voice thick. And you never told me. I tried to bury it, I whispered. To forget. To pretend I never lived any of it. Because for the first time in my life, I met someone who made me feel safe. Someone who made me feel like I could start over. He blinked, chest rising and falling slowly. But you didn't start over, he said quietly. You just hid it. His honesty stung, not because he was harsh, but because he was right. I nodded. I buried it so deep that I convinced myself it didn't matter anymore. But when I saw you becoming more important to me than anything else, I panicked. I was terrified you'd see me as broken. He shook his head slowly. I never saw you that way. Not once. Tears spilled down my face. And then, I continued softly, when I found that old box again, I told myself I'd explain everything. But I kept delaying it. I told myself I'd tell you tomorrow. And then tomorrow became next week. And then it became something I didn't know how to say at all. He was silent, but it wasn't the cold kind of silence anymore. It was an aching, emotional one. Why did you keep the sonogram? He finally asked. I looked at the small, faded image. Because it reminded me of a part of me I never got to meet. It reminded me that even in the middle of chaos, I loved someone who never got a chance to exist. He swallowed hard, his throat visibly tightening. And the ring? He asked, nodding toward the velvet box. I opened it. Inside was the engagement ring Daniel had forced on me years ago. Beautiful, expensive, and heavy with memories I never wanted. I kept it, I whispered. Not because I cared about it, but because I was afraid throwing it away would bring him back into my life. I wanted it out of sight, out of mind, until I felt strong enough to let it go. And now, he asked quietly. I slowly pushed the velvet box toward him. Now, I'm ready to get rid of it. I just never wanted you to find it before I explained everything. He stared at the ring for a long time, his expression unreadable. Then he reached out, closed the box gently, and set it aside. Not angrily, not with resentment, just carefully. We should have burned it, he murmured. Together. A sob escaped me, soft, broken. Do you still want to? He looked at me, and his answer wasn't harsh. It wasn't angry. It was honest. I don't know, he whispered. I'm trying, but it hurts. His voice cracked, and for the first time since this whole thing began, he didn't hide it. I reached out slowly, hesitant, afraid he would pull away. He didn't. But he didn't reach back either. He just sat there, breathing through the pain, trying to understand a past that had crashed into our present without warning. We can get through this, I whispered. I don't want to lose you. He closed his eyes again. I don't want to lose you either, he whispered. But right now, I need to understand how we move forward. His words were gentle, yet heavy enough to break me all over again. And in that moment, I realized something painful. Love doesn't always break in storms. Sometimes, it breaks in the quiet, in the calm, in the moments where both people are trying but don't know how to reach each other. And as he looked at the sonogram one more time, his eyes filled with tears he didn't try to hide. I knew the hardest part was still ahead. The room felt heavier than the truth itself. The sonogram lay on the table between us. The photographs, the documents, the unopened velvet box, all of it. Pieces of a past I had tried to bury and a future I was terrified of losing. He sat there quietly, elbows resting on his knees, hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles were white. He wasn't looking at the papers anymore. He was looking at nothing. At everything. At the space between us that suddenly felt like a bridge or a cliff. I took a slow breath. Tell me what you're thinking. He didn't answer at first. Instead, he leaned back slowly, eyes glossy with exhaustion more than anger. Finally, he whispered, I'm trying to understand how you carried all of this alone. His voice broke on the word alone. I didn't want to, I said quietly. But I was ashamed. Not of the baby. Not of surviving it. But of the life I chose before I met you. He closed his eyes for a long moment. When he opened them, his voice was softer. You don't owe me perfection. Another breath. But you owed me honesty. I nodded, because he was right. I know, I whispered. And then, with a trembling voice, I was scared the truth would make you walk away. He stood up suddenly, not in anger, but in hurt confusion, and walked across the room, hands on his hips. Walk away, he repeated. I fell in love with you because you're strong. Because you're gentle. Because you survived things you shouldn't have had to survive. And you thought that would make me leave. I looked down at my hands. I thought it would make me unworthy of you. He turned around sharply. That's what hurts the most, he said quietly. That you didn't see the way I saw you. His voice wasn't raised. He didn't have to raise it, because the pain underneath was louder than shouting. The decision we both feared. He walked back to the couch, sat beside me, but not too close. Where does this leave us? He asked. I swallowed hard. The question I feared the most. I want us to stay together, I whispered. I want to rebuild whatever I broke. He rubbed his palms across his face, exhausted. I need time. Those 3 words hit me harder than anything else that night. Not because they were cruel, but because they were honest. Are you leaving? I asked, barely able to breathe. He hesitated. I'm not leaving you, he said slowly. But I might need space. A day. Maybe 2. Just to process everything. I felt my chest tighten, but I nodded. I couldn't ask him to stay in that emotional storm. He looked at the sonogram again, and something changed in his expression. A softness, a sadness, a kind of understanding I didn't expect. He picked it up gently, holding it as if it were something fragile. You carried this pain, he whispered, brushing the print with his thumb. And nobody held you through it. My lips trembled. No. His voice broke. You should never have gone through something like that alone. A tear fell from his cheek onto the sonogram. He wiped it quickly, almost embarrassed, but I reached over and took his hand. This time he didn't pull away. Our fingers intertwined, shaking, tentative but connected. I love you, I whispered. He inhaled sharply, his shoulders trembling. I love you too, he said, voice cracking. That never changed. Not for a second. Another silence filled the room, but this one wasn't breaking us. It was holding us. The healing we didn't expect. Minutes passed. Maybe hours. Neither of us kept track. Then he spoke again, quiet, sincere. I want to help you heal, he said. But I need you to let me. I nodded, tears flowing freely. I will. I promise. He gently took the sonogram and placed it in my hand. Then don't carry this alone again, he said. Not anymore. Not ever. My heart broke and healed at the same time. He reached for the velvet box next, opened it one last time, and stared at the ring that symbolized everything I had survived. Do you want to get rid of it tonight? He asked. I nodded. Yes. He closed the box. Then we'll do it together. Those words, we'll do it together, felt like a lifeline. Not a promise of a perfect future. Not a guarantee that everything would magically be okay. But a start. A step. A choice to rebuild. The final moment. He stood up, took my hand, and helped me to my feet. Come outside with me, he whispered. We walked to the backyard, the sky dark but calm. The air was cold, but his hand in mine felt warm. He placed the box on a small patch of empty ground, poured lighter fluid over it, and looked at me one last time. You ready? He asked. For the first time, I whispered, yes. He lit the match. The flame caught instantly, small at first, then growing, then swallowing the velvet. The metal, the memories. We watched it burn together. The past, the pain, the pieces I had hidden for so long. And as the fire glowed softly against his face, I saw him finally breathe, not in anger, not in hurt, but in release. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, pulling me gently against him. I'm not going anywhere, he whispered into my hair. Not after everything you survived. Not after everything we still have to build. I closed my eyes, tears falling silently. His silence had broken me that day, but tonight his words began to mend the cracks. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. Not because everything was perfect, not because the hurt was gone, but because we were choosing each other, even after the truth, even after the silence, even after everything.